Hello and welcome to another episode of the Football Fun Factory podcast. I'm Luke Chadwick and as ever joined by James Cutting and Jonny Martin. For the last 2 weeks I've been playing the role as judge, so hopefully the spinner will decide something different this week. So I'm going to give it a spin and see who's going to be the judge.
Tension.
Oh God.
Hey! Is it your first ever hat trick?
Oh
Luke?
my God, no, I've got a lot of hat tricks before. I can't believe this. Are we still rolling? I genuinely can't believe this. So again, I am the judge this week, so I will be looking over James and Jonny as they put important children's football topics on trial. Let's have a spin.
What you got for us this week, Luke?
Let's have a look. Oh, it's a good spin.
Great spin.
Best way to get children to listen. Jonny, I'm going to go to you first.
Positive reinforcement.
Positive reinforcement. Very good. James?
Limit distractions.
Limit distractions, positive reinforcement. James, I'm going to ask you to go into a little bit more detail first.
So quite often when you call the children in during a session and you're trying to talk to them as a group, give them a bit of feedback and advice, then the children will either bounce the ball, continue doing keepy-ups or whatever on the side of your session. So I think it's really important to limit distractions. One of those really simple ones is just the sun. So quite often if you call the group in and all the kids are looking into the sun, they're all squinting, they're all distracted, they're not really listening to what the coach is saying. So the coach facing the sun and the children facing the opposite direction. I think if there's a distraction, it's going to really disrupt the listening of the children within the session. So that would be my number one top tip.
Fantastic. Jonny, do you want to go into a bit more detail?
Yeah, so with positive reinforcement, I think you often hear the term that the kids are copycats and they tend to copy the behaviour that the other children within the group are displaying. And I think when you talk about that child bouncing the ball, if a child's bouncing the ball and you draw attention to that, a lot of other kids within the group will then start bouncing the ball as well because they're basically craving the coach's attention. So I think the best way to get the children to listen are to use positive reinforcements. If someone is listening beautifully, to reference that, to notice that, to praise that, and then other children within the group will then crave your attention, be the copycats, and then hopefully start to follow suit of that child.
Two interesting points. James, do you want to question Jonny at all on his positive reinforcement?
Yeah, I really agree that positive reinforcement is really important because it does just highlight that. I just don't think it's a catch-all, so I wouldn't say it's the best way. So I think it's a brilliant way, but I don't think it's the best way. Sometimes there might not be the opportunity to positively reinforce. If you call a group of children in and nobody's listening, positive reinforcement's going to be really tough at that point. I think that my point about limiting distractions is the best way, because if you had a group in and they're all staring into the sun and you positively reinforce, go, you're not squinting too much, well done little man, then you can positively reinforce all you like. But if there's a distraction, then you're setting yourself up for failure and the children.
Cool. So I think on that, I think if there isn't a child displaying the behaviours that you want, what you can then do is you can ask the question, who's showing me that they're listening brilliantly? And then that will encourage others to do so, which will then enable you to offer positive reinforcement. My question back to you would be, if a child is bouncing the ball, if a child is squinting into the sun, if there is a distraction, can they still be listening?
Yeah.
So therefore, your point is null and void, and 1 point to me.
I think the question you asked was, can they still be listening? Are they likely to be listening or concentrating? More importantly, probably not. So I think it's absolutely possible that they could be listening.
Interesting, but just going on to you again, James, about the sort of limiting distractions, sort of talking about the children bouncing the ball. How do you limit that distraction? Because obviously it's a football session, they're going to have a ball. What's the limiting of those distractions?
So I think there's limiting distractions and then there's focusing their attention. So the tone of voice, there's loads of other things we could cover off in this topic. I think it's quite a good one where the tone of voice, I remember a particular coach that we used to work with called Alex, and quite often we say that to be loud and dominant is a great way. So by being loud and dominant, everyone focuses on you and therefore you're not distracted by anything else that's going on. But there are some coaches that have their own personality and way and methods, and we've seen a few coaches, observations that we've done in the past, where actually people with a really gentle approach and maybe even a softer, quieter voice, that when you talk like this, actually everyone starts to listen. So that there's different ways in which you can get the children to listen, but I think that limiting the distractions could be their parents on the outside of the pitch or on the side of the pitch, could be the sun, could be a football, all those types of things. But ultimately what you need to do is grab the child's attention. And I think that it's really, really difficult to get the child's attention if there are some sort of distractions in the session. One thing that I always found as well is that in the way that we run our sessions in sort of age-appropriate and ability-appropriate groups, is if you've got the other group in sight behind you, all the kids are looking past you as the coach to see what the other group are up to over there, because you may be able to give them some advice or some information. But if there's a load of kids running around, they're almost envious of that group because they want to get going again. So just turning and facing and get the children facing away from any distraction that could be behind you, could be the parents, could be the son, could be another group, could even be, if you ever coached on fireworks night, that's a nightmare because all
fireworks?
The kids... fireworks, yeah, all bonfires. But quite often then the kids are obviously looking over at the distraction. So
okay, I'm gonna stop you there. That is a really, really good topic. You both argued your case really well. I think I'm going to give the first point for this because of the way they spoke about it. Jonny, obviously positive reinforcement is incredibly important, but point number one of today's podcast is going to James, but don't lose heart because I think there's every chance you could win the next top. Here we go again. What is your why when it comes to football coaching? That is an absolutely brilliant question. I'm going to start with you this one, James.
My why is making football fun, because football should be about the journey rather than the destination.
I'll go a little bit deeper into that.
So we have all had a career and experience within academy football, and we've seen the best and worst of youth development and youth football player pathways. We've seen the wonderful opportunities that brings and the trips to incredible training grounds and facilities and stadiums and places where children get to play football. Opportunities to be part of an academy that all kids would, or many kids would absolutely love, the chance of trying to become a professional. But as we know, less than 0.012% of all children that play football go on to become a Premier League pro. And as a result, if you focus all your attention on that, then that can be at the detriment of having fun. So as we've seen over the years, coaching loads of children where it gets too serious and people aren't having fun necessarily as part of their journey, I think it's really important to focus on the fun and enjoyment side of the game.
Brilliant. That's going to take some beating, Jonny Martin. But if anyone can do it, it's certainly you.
Great point, James. My why comes from when I was younger and I was playing football. And I wasn't the most talented child. And although I wanted to become a professional footballer when I was older, ultimately I wasn't good enough. But my coaches really helped me develop not only my football skills, but my life skills that have helped me away from the game. So my why comes back to my early childhood memories and using football as a vehicle for child development, trying to teach life skills in the children that we coach.
Absolutely fantastic. James, do you want to question Jonny on that? I mean, it's hard to question what he's just come up with there.
Yeah, I'd just say that enjoyment and life skills kind of go hand in hand, but I just think enjoyment sits very slightly above life skills, because life skills will be a natural byproduct of enjoyment. So it's a little bit of a chicken and an egg situation. If you're enjoying yourself, if you're running around, if you're physically active, if you're playing with teammates, all of those things, I think that you'll naturally develop wonderful life skills, pick up a blue card at a Football Fun Factory session. So yeah, I completely agree with your point, and it's only trumped by the enjoyment of the children at the sessions.
John, do you want to respond to that?
I think it's a fair point, and enjoyment, of course, is fundamental in any football session. But I think when it comes back to the question, my why, I sort of try to articulate and showcase that my journey, my story, what makes me want to coach and why I coach in the way that I coach. And I think for me, there are so many children, as you quite rightly said earlier on, 0.001% 0, 1, 2 children that play football go on to play in the Premier League, and I think it is our duty as coaches to coach them life skills, to teach them life skills, because we can make a huge impact on society and children later in life.
I love that. Absolutely love it. John, have you got anything to say to James before I make the decision on this really, really tough topic?
No, I think enjoyment and fun definitely is so important, and I get why you've said that. I think mine is just a little bit higher. Okay,
I'm going to stop it there, because you both argued the point incredibly well. I love the way that you've made it so personal and sort of talking about your sort of past. So the second point, to make it, would you believe, 1-1 in today's episode, Jonny Martin.
Oh,
so we are
tense finale
going into a decider. Let's see where the wheel lands. It's a good spin.
Great spin.
Great spin, Judge.
Which current footballer would make a great head coach? James Cutting.
Current footballer make a great head coach.
Oh, this has got me thinking. Have you got any thoughts, John?
I've got an answer.
Johnny's got an answer. Do you want me to go to Jonny, James? Or
Yeah,
have you got
that's fine, yeah.
Okay, I'll give you a little more thinking time.
Yeah, thank you.
Go on, John.
Tottenham Hotspur's winger, Heung-min Son.
Interesting. Carry on.
Always plays with a smile on his face. He's obviously Spurs' captain at the moment. Everyone talks about him as one of the nicest people in football. Great role model to the younger players within the Spurs squad at the moment. I think would be a fantastic coach, especially when it comes to getting across our ethos of having fun, playing football with a smile on your face.
Particularly a smile on his face the way Spurs are doing this season. That deserves a huge amount of credit.
Slightly higher than Man United in the league.
Didn't ask that, did I?
Oh no, sorry.
James?
Stay with me on this one, because there's some rationale.
Well, of course, we will always stay with it. This is a supportive environment.
Thank you. Marcus Rashford.
Okay.
Because for those that don't know, Marcus Rashford campaigned during COVID for children that were eligible for free school meals to benefit from that in the school holidays, because what was happening was children were going to school, eligible for free school meals, getting the healthy meal, but then it came round to the holidays and they were sitting at home, inactive, lack of physical activity, and didn't have that healthy meal that they had. And then obviously there's plenty of non-term time days where kids are getting a real imbalance between the healthy physical activity at school and then also the nutrition, and then the reverse when they're at home. So he campaigned and lobbied the government, and the HAF programme was born, the Healthy Activity and Food Programme. And as a result, millions of pounds have been invested into brilliant activities, of which one of those has been in partnership with Football Fun Factory. So we've been able to deliver the HAF programme, and millions of children have benefited from that with both Football Fun Factory and other providers, been physically active in the school holidays. And I just think it would be a wonderful story if Rashford, when he hangs up his boots, then pulls on a Football Fun Factory jersey and it all goes full circle. The man that positively influenced and helped millions of children can then do that within his community, wherever that may be, whether it be Birmingham or Manchester.
A very, very good answer. And I think, obviously, the work that Marcus Rashford's done has been inspirational in terms of the help and support he's provided. But in terms of the coach, in terms of Marcus's sort of individual qualities to be a Football Fun Factory head coach, is there anything there for you to sort of...
He's a professional footballer, he's a great role model, so I think there may be some reasons why not, but I think there's plenty of reasons why, and I think that one big reason for me is the one where I think there's just a brilliant backstory to it.
John, do you want to grill James at all on that?
No, I think what he's done for children across the country has been remarkable, and as you say, the instrumental part that he played in the HAF programme is kudos to him. However, I think probably just backing up what you said, Luke, I'd probably question whether he would be the best type of coach and would necessarily be the best role model beyond actually the work that he's already done. So more around like the coaching attributes.
Do you want to respond to that, grilling?
Yeah, I've seen Marcus coach. I think he's fantastic.
When was this out of interest?
Last weekend.
Yeah. James, anything on Jonny's choice?
Yeah, I think Son's an interesting one. I guess it's because of personality and enthusiasm and those side of things. Just that he's a great footballer, and quite often I would say that the best footballers don't make the best coaches. I think there's a strong track record of that. We've seen Lampard and Gerrard, who are two exceptional players who maybe have struggled somewhat with the coaching side. We've seen some players that have had maybe not such a glittering career. Alex Ferguson being one, who you know quite well, Chad.
Yeah, former manager.
It's probably as well as I know Marcus. In that they may not have had a glittering playing career, but have then gone on to be a great coach. So my question would just be around: is there a scenario where the best footballers that actually don't become the best coaches, and then that sort of backs up my reason why Marcus, who may have potentially underperformed throughout his career, can go on to have a fantastic coaching career with the Football Fun Factory as a head coach?
I think it's probably a little bit harsh on Frank Lampard, who's doing a great job at Coventry at the moment, and Steven Gerrard, who did an outstanding job over in Scotland with Rangers. But I think when you look at those, I think I get your point. Sometimes when the top players, they don't then become top managers. I think there's a definite comparison there. And however, when you talk about coach and all the qualities that Son has, I think he would make an outstanding Football Fun Factory coach because of the fun, the enthusiasm, the personality, and that's what we look for in our coaches across our programs. You can be super well qualified, but you can still lack that personality and that enthusiasm. And actually, we much prefer coaches that have got that and the ability to engage and inspire the children, as opposed to necessarily all the coaching qualifications in the world. So.
Okay, enough. I've heard enough. I'm going to make my decision. 2 valid points, and I think 2 fantastic footballers you talk about there. Obviously, Marcus Rashford, brilliant player, done so much good for the children of the UK over the past sort of since the COVID period. I think when we talk about the question, looking into that of who'd make the best Football Fun Factory head coach.
Didn't say that, Judge.
Which coach?
Just for you.
Well, I'm sorry. Well, I'm going to take it that way.
Okay, that's fine.
I'm the judge.
You're the judge.
It's my call. I'm the judge. And because of the...
Just have a retrial.
Well, we can do that next week. Someone else can be the judge. I am going to go with Jonny Martin for Sonny.
Thanks very much.
Just because of the sort of how he presents himself, the way that he plays football with a smile on your face. I think it's everything that we look for at the Football Fun Factory, despite the fact that's not the actual question that was asked. But I'm going to give it to Jonny because I like Jonny a little bit better than I like you.
That's fine.
Anyway, so Jonny, a massive congratulations.
Thanks very much, Luke.
A 2-1 win in a really tight contest. But I believe the next part of the podcast is everyone's favourite part, which
Definitely.
is Chaddy's quick fire questions.
Yeah, nice.
Okay, guys, what you got for me this week?
I'll go first. Can you, from your football career, can you remember a bicycle kick goal or the best bicycle kick that you've seen?
That is an absolute... That's come from nowhere. That's one of the hardest questions I've ever had. Like, all that springs to mind, and obviously I weren't playing, I was just watching it, was... And probably the best bicycle kick I've ever seen was Garnacho last season against Everton. When I was a kid growing up, and I'm little bit older than you guys, there was a player that I used to watch. He played for Mexico and Real Madrid. His name was Hugo Sanchez. If you YouTube him, Google him, he scored so many overhead kicks. So that's the person that always sticks in my mind in terms of overhead kicks. But you've absolutely stumped me with that question there, because I cannot remember an overhead kick being scored apart from myself at Melbourne Primary School. And I remember this like it was yesterday. I must have been about 12, 13 years old. Me and a group of friends, probably shouldn't say this, broke into the sports field, like the backfield at Melbourne Primary School. We had a net and we set it up in the little goal, like a box net that they used to, you know, where it goes back, and it looked unbelievable. And I remember scoring an absolute world. Even my friends just stood back and applauded.
Well done, mate.
Yeah.
Proud of you.
So, yeah.
Nice.
So if any of my friends are watching this and you remember that goal, get in touch. Let's talk about it. John?
Cool. My question is, obviously looking back, you played professional football, over 500 games, is it? Nice. What would your advice be to any young children and players trying to break it through and become a professional footballer?
I think the most important thing, and probably a massive reason for my involvement with the Football Fun Factory, is like there's no way in the world that I would have had the opportunity to be a professional footballer if it wasn't for the positive early experiences that I had in the game. Like when I started playing at 8-9 years old in my first team, it wasn't about obviously becoming a professional footballer back then, but it was when I fell in love with the game. And I think like there's no chance of becoming, in my opinion, a professional footballer unless you absolutely love it. So I think the most important thing is falling in love with the game, and then you get the opportunity to develop, because when you lose that enjoyment, I think it's so hard to then get to where you'd like to be if you haven't got a real love to keep going and keep persevering in the game.
Nice.
Fantastic. Great episode, guys. Really enjoyed the chat, and we will see you all soon.